What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new video, because today I would like to talk about the dual barrel or double barrel vehicle branch video Wargaming recently released, or recently like 5 hours ago. I'm just going to let it run a little bit because in the beginning there's nothing really new or exciting about it, and in general this video can be condensed down to now we know that this tree starts from the KV3. We know that we will have a tier 8, a tier 9, and a tier 10 vehicle. Speaking of the tier 9 and tier 10 vehicle, if you would like to know more about them, I highly suggest to watch the video in the iCard, which is my personal take on a preview on those videos. So now, the dual barrel vehicles, I hear a lot of different things. My German community hates them. Really many people don't like them at all. I'm personally open because stats-wise, they don't really see too ridiculous. One thing, however, I really do want to point out is that I do understand the argument, why is Wargaming working on dual barrel tanks while we have glaring problems in balancing? And the issue is, it's like when you have a factory and the people in your manufacturing part of the factory, or the company, are much quicker at doing stuff than the people ordering things, and so on and so forth. And this is kind of the problem I think Wargaming has. The devs, or rather the researchers, are much quicker on getting those tanks ready than, well, the balancing team is.
We plan to add 4 vehicles to the game. One of them, the Object 703 version 2, was used as the test vehicle. After the successful test, it may be added to the game as a Tier 8 premium vehicle, just as players thought.
Honestly, I just want to point out already, Wargaming, or the people which are watching, this is not a may, this will be the tier 8 premium tank. I can basically bet my YouTube channel on it, to be honest. This is what is going to happen. They're just going to put this Object 703 version 2 out as the premium tank and the IS2 thingy as the standard tank. The interesting part about is, however, that right now on the 1.6.1 test, or on 1.6.1 server, we have 2 versions of this Object 703 version 2, and one is with a 100mm gun, meaning it only has 300 alpha, which is pretty cool, I think, personally.
Let's talk about the other vehicles in more detail.
We gathered a lot of information on the topic. Our historical consultants studied all the available data and blueprints thoroughly.
Certain components of manufactured and prototyped Soviet vehicles were used for creating the game models of double-barreled vehicles.
Honestly, I do think that this can be true. I'm just a little bit saddened that we don't have a full tree, because there were real projects of a T-34-2, a T-34 medium tank with 2 guns, or a KV-1 most likely with 2 guns. So it's a little bit sad that we only get to know those vehicles from tier 8 on and not lower tier. It would have been cooler because the new mechanic would be available earlier, but then again, we already saw it from Wargaming countless times already. Stritzwagen TDs, UDES mediums, Emil heavies, wheeled vehicles, all Progettos, all of those tank trees started to get their unique feature at tier 8. So it is here as well.
Solutions were thoroughly worked on by our specialists, and they're all based on real blueprints.
I'm just going to point out, your specialists, I don't know, it sounds a little bit like they are a tiny bit biased. I would really do want to see the LT432's blueprints, which you have, Wargaming, because I, as an engineer in my studies, I can't really comprehend how exactly a gun breech gets to be in that turret with 7 degrees of gun depression.
Installing double-barreled guns almost always affected the width of the vehicles, as well as the length of the hull and turret. Increasing the number of crew members and the amount of ammunition led to an increased turret volume. In some cases,
that makes sense.
The turret race ring diameter had to be widened, which affected the hull width as well. The vehicles became heavier. The contact surface length had to be increased to keep the crossing capacity high. This made the hull longer.
And this part about the hull longer is actually true for when we look at the model of the IS-322, because it is a normal IS-3 hull, but it's elongated by one road wheel, and most likely because of that it has 130 millimeters of of front plate armor instead of only 110 the usual IS3 has. So yeah. By the way, in my Offspring video, where I ranted about all Offspring shenanigans and the pat on the back video, I have to say, kudos to Wargaming. If they do something good, I want to point it out. This is a good video. It's informative and it shows how they worked on it. I still would like to see
Finally,
more blueprints and so
more
on.
powerful
But
diesel
yeah.
engines were needed. Despite all that, many vehicle elements weren't too different from similar vehicles with a single gun. Working on the vehicle models looks
But then
just
again,
like building a construction set. Some details were completely new.
they show us how it's been made, so that's a really good point by Wargaming.
Others were elements from old vehicles.
That means if these vehicles had been built, they would look exactly like they do in our game.
I just want to point out a thing about Formula One as an example. The FIA always makes models for their concept cars, which they think, yeah, the teams will look after. Trust me, engineers are son of a guns. They find every single loophole they can find, and they don't give a damn poop about how the tanks will look like. So, or the Formula One cars, as long as they are the best and as long as their duty is the finest and does everything the best, they don't care about looks. Trust me, that's how an engineer thinks.
The branch will start with the IS-2 version 2 heavy tank. You can guess from the name that it's an upgraded version of the famous IS, but the transition will happen from the KV-3 because some components of this vehicle are better suited to this branch.
I'm actually happy to play the KV-3 again, so that's cool.
Tier 8, we plan to test two top-tier gun options. The first one is a 100mm gun. With it, we want to focus not on damage per shot, but making the new mechanic more accommodating. The shot preparation time will be shorter, and the guns will be locked after the double shot for a shorter period as well. With the 122mm gun, we want to focus primarily on the damage per shot, but the new mechanic will not be as adaptable.
The key differences of the IS-2 version 2 from a normal IS will mainly be the damage per shot and penetration. The stats will be better.
I also hope that gun stats in general, gunsoft stats will be better.
Because of the peculiarities of the double-barreled guns and being a higher tier. Movement speed will be okay, a bit slower than its tier mates, but pretty comparable. The weak point of the vehicle is its hull armor. It was inherited from the Tier 7 vehicle, however, the turret will be better armored.
I think they will still tinker around a little bit to give it at least somewhat workable armor. I don't think it will be just 120mm because that would be super trash. But then again, the ISM also has really bad armor. The tank kind of reminds me a little bit of the 53 TP. The whole armor of the 53 TP is a little bit meh, but the turret is great. And in general, it looks like the turret armor of those vehicles is good, plus they have decent gun depression values, so that's pretty interesting, I would say.
At Tier 9 is the IS.
Oh yeah, one thing I just wanted to also talk about is that Wargaming shouldn't test the 100mm and the 122mm option and then choose. Please, 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 Wargaming. Let us choose. Let us, the player, choose if you want low alpha or high alpha. Being more consistent, being 780 alpha strike. Come on, Wargaming. It's not that hard. Please, please let us decide in-game. And don't just force feed us with one option, okay? That would be fucking awesome.
IS-3 version 2. Its hull is very similar to the IS-3, so it's not very well armored for Tier 9. The turret also has been gifted from the IS-3. It was.
Well, now it depends if it's gifted by the IS-3. Is this plate up here also only 20mm thick? I hope not, because then would be... Well, actually, no, let's be 20mm thick. So it's a weak spot because this cupola looks very, very
Heavily
small.
modified to mount the double-barreled guns. The caliber of the guns themselves is 122mm, and the damage per shot is 390 hit points. The vehicle will be pretty mobile.
I'm a little bit tired, but you can also see right now it has 7 road wheels. The usual IS-3 has 3. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is why the hull is slightly elongated with the IS-3 version 2. And this upper plate armor is a whole 130mm apparently.
For his tier.
And yes, it is a little bit more mobile than the
For
T10
Tier
one.
10, we have a pretty famous vehicle that was anticipated by players, the ST2. Let's talk a bit more about it and compare it with the ST1. The hull shape and armor are pretty much identical. The turret also has not changed very much. The reason for that is that the ST tank project was developed with two versions, ST1 and ST2. The turret design was created to facilitate the installation of double-barreled guns from the very beginning.
I actually didn't know that, so that's a little bit interesting tidbit. What I'm not really certain about is how changed is the hull, because the frontal hull looks a little bit more than IS-4-like than ST1-like. The ST1 has those distinct flaps downwards. Actually, I can just show you because why shouldn't I show you? When we look at the ST1 in the 3D model, you can see that those are those small spots looking downwards. And even if you look at the visual model, you can see very, very steeply shaped. And the driver's hatch also looks much different than what we see in the developer
Gun
diary.
caliber will stay as 122 millimeters. The same.
As you can see, this looks much different and looks thicker in my personal view than what we have here. So yeah, that's as a little opinion about that. It really does look more more like the IS-4, if you ask me. You can see it looks a little bit more bulkier, but because we don't have those things down here, it reminds me more of the IS-4 hull. But
Same as the IS-4 and the ST1. The damage per shot will be 440 hit points.
that's pretty decent if you think about
The most
880 Alpha
important
Strike.
feature of these new vehicles is that they have several firing modes. Each of them has its own peculiarities. Let's use the ST2 as an example for how a double-barreled vehicle can behave in battle. The main and easiest to understand mode is cyclical. There are just a couple of nuances. After shooting the active left gun, it starts reloading. The camera automatically switches to the right gun and it becomes active. After the left gun is loaded, take another shot. Now the right gun starts reloading. The camera goes back to the left gun and the process repeats. It's similar to firing a normal vehicle, but with a shifting aiming camera. It's unusual, but easy to get used to.
I think they pretty much nailed the explanation. The Kranwagen bit was a little bit confusing because it was so fast, but it's basically like an auto-reloader. In general, you can say those are heavies with auto-reloaders with 2 magazines. That's it, with 2-shot magazine. There's nothing more about it. The only feature they have is this wind-up time where they can do a double-barrel shot.
The second mode is consecutive firing. After shooting the active gun, the camera shifts. However, you can't fire the second gun right away. The timer on the left shows when you can shoot. It's similar to the well-known and understood mechanic of reloading between shots.
Why do they show the T75, T57 heavy? Why don't they show the Prosciutto?
It's generally quite short, up to 5 seconds. When the timer ends, you can fire from the second gun. It's important to remember that loading the first gun will be interrupted, and the sequential loading of both shells will start again.
By the way, I really do like this one right here. This is really cool. I like that they showed the length you have to go through till you have both things reloaded. That would be cool to see also on Prosciutto tanks, to be honest.
This is why it's beneficial to wait a couple of seconds to fully load the first gun. The third and the most interesting and unusual mode is the double shot. No other vehicle can do it. To fire both guns, click and hold the left mouse button. The shot preparation will start, which lasts about 3 to 4 seconds. The double shot will be fired automatically after preparation. The progress is shown close to the reticle. It can be cancelled at any time simply by releasing the left mouse button. It's important to note that after the double shot, both guns are locked for a couple of seconds. They cannot be fired or loaded during this period.
One thing, my friend thought you could prepare the preparation time and then just drive around with both guns ready to shoot whenever you want. This is not the case. Again, you have to press the mouse button, press it as long as this preparation time is over, and as soon as it reaches 0 or is finished preparing, it immediately shoots. If you release the mouse button earlier, as they explain, the whole cycle repeats again.
After they are unlocked again, the shells are loaded sequentially to both guns. After both guns are fully loaded, you can fire both guns again. You can do that as often as you like.
This, however, really butchers your DPM. It's roughly 30 seconds you will need to prepare a shot, shoot both guns, and reload both guns with the lock. And this is 880 damage potential. So if you shoot both guns at the same time, always, you basically have a DPM of 1660. That's... Wait, no. Is it one? No, 1760, I think. That's not really that good, if you think about it. But what I think is cool about those vehicles, that they give us the opportunity to have different things we want. We can go, we for example see, I just made one shot, but it didn't kill the enemy just quite yet. Doesn't matter, I still have a shot ready. And it also makes a little bit of psychological warfare, because now you can think, oh well, should I really now try to do this double-barreled shot to finish him off? But then if I fuck up, I'm around 30 seconds cooldown where I can do anything, or 20 seconds at least.
Double-barreled vehicles have several qualities that differentiate them from other vehicles. It's important to remember that both guns are still a single module, so if one of your guns is critically damaged, the other one will not be able to fire. Also, you're easier to spot after a double shot than after a single one, because a double shot exposes your vehicle much more than a standard one.
Does this affect 50-meter rule? That would be very, 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 very interesting to know.
The third quality is the fact that if your two shells hit, you have a higher chance to damage internal modules or injure crew members.
Again, other question. Does this mean it's just double? Because, well... Yeah, is it double? That's my question. Is it double the crew damage, or the module damage? Because that could, in theory, mean that you have not a high chance, but you still have the standard chance. But it is a little bit unfair against tanks which have weak ammo racks, because usually you get hit by one of the gun, your ammo rack gets damaged, you repair it, and then you can get hit again until a third time will finally cook it off. Here you basically don't have this time. So if you actually know where to aim, yeah, you have a good chance to blow people up if you are lucky enough. You still need around a 1 in 8 chance, but the enemy doesn't have a chance to react basically to it. That's really interesting to think about, I think.
This vehicle is suitable for combat at a short or medium distance. You play it like a classic Soviet heavy. Close in on the enemy, angle your hull, bounce a shot, fire back.
By the way, can we talk about the Super Conqueror playing like really, really stupid when there is a huge Cupra he could shoot at? Yes, I know, it's nitpicking, they want to show the tank off.
There's one more thing.
Yeah.
Still,
come on, make it realistic.
If your enemy makes a mistake. And the main thing is, of course, the double shot. The enemy won't anticipate this, and if it hits, it always deals an immense amount of damage to them.
Well, you can also bounce.
However, this mechanic has a downside too. The shot preparation time. It must be considered before the shot. The gun lock is a pretty lengthy period that should be considered after the shot. And of course, the shell loading itself. During reloading and a very long period of passive behavior, you must understand that you have two options. Wait for this long reload in a safe spot somewhere, or end up back in the garage.
I personally would say that the double-barrel vehicles may be a really good introductory line to auto-reloaders, or even, what are they called? Normal clip tanks, like the Badger, the 50B or something, because both tanks, if you use the double shot, have a lengthy period of time they're vulnerable. So this might actually help to get to know those mechanics. In general, I think that the double-barrel tanks won't be broken or overpowered. It doesn't really look like that from the stats. Again, please consider watching the video. The stats, they look okay. Compared to the IS-4, obviously they look very strong, because the IS-4 is a garbage tier 10 tank. Especially when it comes to gun stats. I just don't really know. Like, I don't see them as game-breaking. The only thing which can be game-breaking is that they have a higher potential killing threshold. Where, for example, a normal tank has around 400 HP to kill you, to be safe kill. They can do that around 700 already, because they have 2 shots ready. They can do a double shot. They can do sequential shots. They can do auto-reloader mode. It's safer because you usually just have always a shot ready. So this makes those tanks easier, in my opinion, to play, because if you screw up one time, you still have another one to go.
Double-barreled vehicles have another peculiar feature. We didn't show it in the first video, but it's now time to show you some exclusive content. After the double shot, the vehicle rolls back a little, but if you played a certain great car stealer game, you surely remember that if you turn the turret 180 degrees, get some speed and take a shot, this will happen.
Best fucking feature ever. Period. Nothing else. I talked to my German community manager friend, and I said this is the best fucking feature. Period. Why is it the best feature? Because it lets you min-max the living hell out of your gameplay. You know you won't be able to shoot at an enemy for the next 40 seconds. Well, congratulations. Now you can use your double shot to be 1 second earlier at the enemy. And this 1 second can mean something. Sarcasm. It looks good, okay? It looks cool.
Internally before hitting the common test. Each of them will have its own test cycle, during which their characteristics will change. Developers are constantly in search of an optimal ratio between pros and cons for the double-barreled guns. They will balance their power with changes to such parameters as switching time, add feedback.
Yeah, and I just want to skip over it because there was not really much to say. If you have feedback, leave it in a video down below, obviously. Again, I personally don't really dislike the idea of the double-barrel guns. It doesn't really look super overpowered to me. The only thing which makes them strong is, again, as already mentioned, you can screw up one time and it doesn't really matter. That's it, in my opinion. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. My name is RagingRaptor. I hope you enjoyed today's opinion video. If so, let me know in the comment section below if you enjoyed it. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to stay. I always welcome new subscribers. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope that on Sunday I can finally do my IS4 video, because today it was a little bit stressful.